Hi, I'm Nate Bean with Integrity Automotive, where it's more than a name, it's how we do business, located in Issaquah, Washington. And today I'm going to talk about a common question that we hear from people, and that is, why do my brakes make noise? So there's many different noises that your brakes can make. The most common people complain about is a squeak noise, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. You may also hear a grinding noise at times. Grinding is usually, you've heard the term metal to metal or metal on metal. That means that your brake pads are completely worn out. You don't ever want to get to that point. Have your brakes inspected at least annually so that your brakes never wear out to the point where they're metal on metal. So we're going to talk about squeaks. Why do your brakes squeak? A couple different reasons can cause that. A squeak is a high frequency vibration, and you're hearing that in the sound of a squeak. And a high frequency vibration would mean essentially that your pads are vibrating at a really high rate of speed, so much you can't see it, but this is an exaggeration. Or perhaps your pads are vibrating on the back of the brake calipers. Now, a disc brake system is what we're looking at here. This is a front disc brake system, which consists of brake rotors, brake calipers, and brake pads. Now, these are not the pads for this vehicle, obviously. But the brake rotor turns with the wheel, and the wheel is bolted on here, and the brake rotor spins, and then the brake pads are squeezed against the rotor to cause the rotor to stop turning. That occurs when you step on the brake pedal, push hydraulic fluid past the hydraulic brake, through the hydraulic brake lines, and into the calipers, which then squeeze these brake pads in against the rotor and stops the rotor from turning. You can imagine the intense pressure and heat that is required by your brakes to stop a vehicle like this, clamping in on the rotor. So what happens is, as they get really hot, you may get really hot rotors, which could become heat checked and cause problems, but it can also just cause problems with the brake pads themselves. It's important that you use high quality brake pads. Much like a good steak versus a cheap steak, which you can taste the difference. You can't see the difference in good brake pads or cheap brake pads, but there's a big, big difference. So quite often, if you're getting a cheap brake job done, the shop might be installing cheap brake pads, and they might be doing nothing else but putting pads on. A good quality brake job that will keep squeaks and noises to a minimum and provide the longest life and the best shortest stopping distance is going to involve replacing the brake pads, resurfacing the rotors, and taking off any imperfections and smoothing the rotors out and giving them a clean surface for the pads to ride on, and then lubricating the sliding components in the caliper so that they can move freely. Another thing to be done is a treatment can be put on the brake pads, which will penetrate the pad and keep them from squeaking, and also a lubricant on the back side of the pads will keep the pads from vibrating in the calipers. Many brake pads even come with a shim, which is designed to keep the pads from vibrating, which will keep the squeak eliminated as well. But brake squeak, in some cases, is inevitable. It's very difficult to eliminate completely in many cases. If you're hearing a squeak, it does not mean your brakes are bad. However, you want to have them inspected if you're getting a squeak on a regular basis. Okay, so I'm Nate Bean, and that is your Integrity Insider tip on brake noise and squeaks. If you enjoyed this tip and it was helpful to you, please click the like button. Please share it with your friends, and if you'd like more helpful tips in the future, please subscribe to this channel, and we'll look forward to sharing more future tips with you. Thanks again for watching, and we hope this was helpful.